I grew up in rural North Carolina on a tobacco farm. I am the ninth of 10 children. Um, my parents, of course, were sharecroppers. And so, what that means to me is that we worked constantly, but never really made any money. Growing up in my life was really difficult, not so much as much at home as it was when I would go to school. When I first started school, schools were actually segregated, and so because we were so poor, we didn't have lots of nice clothes to wear to school. So we were actually bullied. That's what they call it now, is bullying. But back in those days, we just called it, the kids picked on us because we were poor. And I remember always liking school from the standpoint of learning, but I always dreaded going to school because I knew that I would be picked on. And the more that I was picked on in school, the worse I felt about myself. I didn't feel good about myself as a person. I thought something was wrong with me. And so it was a kind of difficult life. I remember growing up with all the bad things happening in my life with some of the bad people and that were white. And I decided, you know what? I have to do better. I can't be bitter. I just have to do better. And I have to use my experience to do better. And it also changed my character in such a way that I really try to understand people. I may not always agree with every thing that a person is doing or the lifestyle that they choose, but I do still have compassion for all people. And I think that compassion that I have came as a result of the things that I've gone through. When George Floyd died, literally felt like I was dying. I literally felt as if I was dying because somebody had killed my son. When I saw the video and I heard that young man calling his mama's name, I could literally see my son on that ground. And I felt like this man is killing my child. He's killing my child. And so for me, it put me in a really, really dark place. And if I'm to be honest, at some point, it literally took me back to when I was growing up, and I started to feel hatred again. I began to feel hatred because I thought about when the Klan killed my cousin. I thought about when the Klan beat my two cousins up so bad they had to be hospitalized. And it actually took me back there. And it took me some weeks before I could my sister and I actually talked daily. And we prayed for each other daily. And because she and I both we were actually afraid of our own emotions because we were beginning to feel like we hated people again. And I know that's not what my parents would have wanted from us. I'm sorry. It's a little bit hard. I'm sorry. And I remember at that point, I didn't even want to feel like my church brothers and sisters were my church brothers and sisters anymore because they didn't understand. I felt like none of the whites understood. But then I started getting like phone texts and phone calls and emails and different things from some of my white friends and white colleagues, and some that are in town, some that are out of town. And I started realizing that they do care, and they don't support or condone this behavior. and that they feel bad too. Maybe they can't feel as bad as I do because they haven't lived the life that I've lived, but they do love me and they do care. And I think that really helped to pull me out of that place at that point in time. But it was a real difficult time. But I still daily, it brings back to mind, at least regularly, how much injustice and how much discrimination and how much racism that we still have in this world. And it really makes me sad that there's not something that can just be done, that we can all do to get rid of it, because it's just so hurtful. And I just want everybody to literally just love each other and appreciate each other. That's a pretty loaded question there, because some days I might tell you that I'm feeling optimistic, and then there's other days I may say that I'm not feeling so optimistic. It just depends on my experiences in that particular day, or what's going on around me, or what's happening. I think what really makes me optimistic on those days that I am optimistic is that I do encounter people, usually daily, that I know are very sincere about this fight of everything being equitable for everyone. There are people, not just equality, we want equity, but there are sincere people out here, and I know that because I work with some of those people. For example, I work with a guy, and I'm sure he doesn't mind me saying his name, Jason Estep, who works for UGA 4-H. He and I just met him a couple of years ago when we went to DC to do a training. And the training was, and he is the one who asked to actually do this training. And to be able to do this training, he had to have another person from the University of Georgia that would do it, and he needed a person from Fort Valley State University. So I was asked to be the other person from the University of Georgia. Jason Estep is actually a white guy. And I didn't know he was white until I got to DC. And I meet this Jason Estep that's right in the same building as I am, upstairs on the 3rd floor. Never met him before in my life. But I meet him there, and we went to this training. The training is called Coming Together for Racial Understanding. And I'm kind of wondering, why did a white boy ask for us to go to this training for Coming Together for Racial Understanding? And basically, after I've gotten to know Jason, and we've become friends, he works with a lot of youth, and he sees a lot of like racism and stuff, with youth, the youth audiences, and dealing with those kinds of issues that he has when he's working with youth. And so he wanted to go for that reason. But that man is so committed to help make a change that it is just unbelievable. And Jason's not the only person, the only white person, but I think that is what actually keeps me optimistic, is knowing that there are those sincere people. Even though we've come a long ways, I still think about how much farther we have to go, especially over the last couple of years with all the racial unrest that we are having, and seeing some of the things that I'm seeing now that I thought I'd never actually see again. But for me, it helps me to know that I was part of that whole process, and going through that process have shaped me and the things that are important to me, and know that, and to realize each and every day as we continue to fight this fight of making sure that people are just treated as individuals instead of a black, white, green, blue, purple, whatever. It represents that we've come a long way, but we still have a long ways to go. And it's not just the job of us as Black individuals to make that happen. It's the job of everyone to make that happen. And it has to be a sincere effort on everyone's part.